Hey guys, it's Eugenia Kuzmina from Bad Moms, The New Girl, and Upcoming Tough Guys with Guy Ritchie, and I'm here with amazing Vanessa from Bamo Radio. So stay tuned.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to another segment of Damo Interviews. I have a very special guest with me today, Israeli award winning mixing engineer, Shalev Alon. Hi, Shalev, how are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Of course, I know you have an amazing, interesting, very interesting career. Actually, you're a mixing engineer. You've been a part of so many like films and everything that we watch all the time, like Lego Ninjago movie, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and so many others.
Yes.
But before we get into the really interesting, amazing part of your career, can you kind of tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in this?
Yeah, definitely. So I originally, I'll go really, really back and I'll try to sum it up as much as I can. I started to play guitar when I was 10 years old. I basically just started to learn classical music. I went all these phases of like going to rock and then jazz, and I had a band, and I did a bunch of stuff before I moved to the US. And around the age of 18, I had to basically I was drafted to the military here because you have to do like 3 years in Israel service in the military. So basically, like during these 3 years, I try to combine a lot of like my music interests. And after like a year and a half, where it was a little bit harder because there's a lot of training and stuff like this. So a lot of like after like a year and a half, I started to learn production by myself with my computer. I started to learn how to work the DAWs and how to play piano a little bit and like do a bunch of stuff music wise. And during this time, I actually found someone who like teaching this in Tel Aviv, which is the big city here in Israel. Basically, I went to him like once a week, and he taught me a bunch of stuff about mixing and production and like really
Wow.
interesting stuff. Yeah, he did a lot of the music for the biggest theater in Israel. So he had like a lot of experience, and I learned a lot from him. And I knew like this is something that I really want to do, and I had a lot of interest in doing it. And I knew that I want to make it, like in basically in the big screen. Like I knew that everything is happening in Los Angeles. Like I knew all the big films, big studios, everything happens there, and I knew from very early age that I want to go there and live there and basically work my way up over there. So after my 3 years in the army, I saved a bunch of money, a lot of money, to save and study at Musician Institute in Hollywood. Uh, I went there. I studied for like a year the audio engineering program, and actually very fast because when you because I did the army thing here, and like I saved a lot of money for like a year. I was around like 23 years old, and when I went to college, like people in the US, they're 18, 19, like this is their age, so I was a little bit older. And for me, I was kind of like prepared. So after like 3 months, I started to talk with my professors and see how can I get work, how can I be outside of the studio, even before I finished my study. Like I knew that I'm ready. And one of my professors heard some of my mixing, and he knew that I have a lot of knowledge in what I want to do. And he actually helped me out to get an interview at Hans Zimmer Studio. And
Wow.
Hans was, was like the biggest composer, I think. For me, I was very lucky to do that because I've learned a lot from Hans from the computer when I was in Israel. Like I saw his YouTube tutorials and stuff like this. So for me, it was like a dream come true to go and actually work in the studio. And I basically worked there for like I think there's like a 5 weeks internship program over there,
Mhm.
and I worked very hard. I lived in Hollywood. Had to go to Santa Monica. I didn't have a car. I was like waking up at 5 a.m., going there and like, stay there until like 10 p.m. and sometimes even later, just, doing my dishes and like giving everyone coffee and like giving them their mail and like, do all the internship things you
Yeah.
need to do. So I actually learned a lot because there's a great opportunity over there that you have like 1 hour in a day to actually be with someone in the room. So I went a lot to spend like every hour of my day. I went to sit with Alan Marson, which is his mixing engineer, and I basically sat with him a lot. I saw him work. I saw his techniques. I saw his gear, everything, and I think that was one of the biggest turning in the things that I know now about mixing engineers. Like for me, when I saw how the industry works, I knew that I want to keep be there, and I mean that I need to stay there actually. And after those 5 weeks of internship, they sent me to work for a composer named Henry Jackman, and that was when he did the Captain America: Civil War and Jack Reacher and King Kong and like a bunch of big stuff. And that was an amazing thing to be a part of a team that actually work on these big films. And for me, that was like the first time that I knew that all of my knowledge, everything that I learned, like this is where I need to apply everything, and I need to do whatever I need to do and do whatever they need me to do, but still try to. I don't know if there's a term in English, but basically just like do your job, but even like above it, like try to help other in their job as well. So for me, that was like a big turnaround to see how big films in America have been made. And after this, I wanted to like go a little bit more into the pop and hip hop world, and I started to work for like studios as a freelancer sometimes as a part-time engineer for studios like 17 Hertz and Windmark Studios and Energy. I I ran a bunch, I ran into a bunch of like really great artists like Chris Brown and
Wow.
Ray J and Young Thug and Two Chainz and Busta Rhymes, like a bunch of really great artists in LA. And that was a totally different experience because the hip hop world is totally different from the film industry.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more about the vibe and a lot more about like having like a good company and like having a good I don't know like workflow in the studio. There's no like time restriction and stuff like this. So that was an amazing opportunity for me to learn about also the hip hop culture, which was amazing for me to see. And I was so I mean for me I felt so lucky to be a part of it because it's something that I always saw on the TV.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. And after this, I moved on to, I moved back actually to film and I started to work with Brad Hanel as an assistant engineer. This is where I did all, the Lego movie and Diary of a Wimpy Kid and the Minion short, Hotel Transylvania, like a bunch of animation stuff. And I was more familiar with that world, but still, that was my first time working as an assistant engineer, which is basically, you're after the chief engineer. So
Mhm.
that was like my first time really having hands on everything, like recording, orchestras, mixing and editing and like doing a bunch of stuff. And for me, even now when I'm telling you this, like I see how it's important to actually start from the bottom in this industry and to actually know all the steps and to know every every part and every title in the work chain, because then you know how to handle everything. Like you don't, you know.
Absolutely.
So for me, I think that was the biggest work that I had to actually learn with someone like firsthand. And I was with Brad for like almost a year, and I think I've learned the most from him because we're so close. I've been with him day to night working with like amazing composers. Um, and after this, I felt like I'm ready to move on and to be actually a freelancer because that's what I always wanted to do, like be my own, have my own clients and open my own studio. And I was lucky enough to meet a producer from Disney, and we kind of like connect, and I think it was like a relationship over for like a six months until we actually started to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And when we finally started to work together, his first project was actually Star Wars Galaxy land. Like they built
Wow.
the Star Wars land in California. That was like June 2019, I think. And I actually had no idea they're opening it. So he told me about it, and for me it was like a big surprise because I'm a big Star Wars fan, and that was actually one of the requirements, like to know Star Wars, to know the story, to know the music, the characters, and stuff like this. So that helped me a lot, like to actually get the job.
Wow.
Um,
That's
and
really
after
cool.
this relationship, like I worked with him like on basically all the music for the park. We went to the park when it was built and we saw everything, and we actually amplified the music in the park, and I was mixing it in on the rides itself, which was a
Wow.
totally different experience for me. Um, so yeah, that's basically it. Like I worked for Disney, and then I worked for Universal a little bit doing like trailers and Netflix, and like that's when you're a freelancer, like you do a bunch of stuff. And this is why I felt like I was very lucky to do this, to learn a little bit about hip hop and then in pop, and then doing like trailers and doing film score, and all this stuff actually helped me a lot because I can actually reach a lot of people in the industry to work with. So I think
Absolutely.
that's super important.
Absolutely. And also speaking on when you were saying you did a lot of mix engineering for music inside the parks, you've also got the opportunity to do it for Disneyland, like you were saying. So can you kind of tell me how did that opportunity exactly come along that you were able to do it yourself? You had to actually go there, testing out the sounds and everything.
Well, actually, like when we started, I just started as an editor. Like he told me, hey, we need an audio editor, and like just to help us get together some of the music, and like even before they wrote any music, just like to have an idea. So it was a very long process. Like I think almost like 7 months or something like this to have the whole music. Um, and it was crazy because we had a lot of like temporary music to kind of like feel how it will be, and then there was a lot of auditions to like a lot of artists to write songs and like to write music. When you go in the park, like you hear music just randomly, when you go to like rides and when you go to a shop or like the gift shops and whatever, there's always music around, so somebody had to write it.
Yes.
And that was like basically the people that we reached out, and we saw how it works and what kind of music we need. um, and there were again me and two more producers. Like we were such a small team out of like a lot of people who works on it, like really a lot of people, like 100 of people, I think, actually worked on it, on the sound and like where the speakers will be, and like there's a bunch of things you need to actually do. So um, after this, like they actually saw that I have knowledge, also in the gear and the technical part, and I know a little bit of music, so maybe like writing and like and I know some. Like they saw that I know a bunch of stuff from different world, but I have my expertise as a mixing engineer,
Yes.
and this is why they use me a lot. So after this, they asked me after we did all the music and everything was written, they asked me if I can actually come and do it in the park, because I actually had no idea that this is a part of the job to come and to actually mix while you're doing the ride, like imagine you're in a ride in Disneyland, but you're not really looking at what's going on. You basically in the computer, and like you're doing, oh, we need more volume here, we need a little bit more reverb coming from here, we need the
Wow.
screaming coming. So that's how you think about it. And we basically the main work that I did there was to mix the music for the cantina, which is the famous bar from Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
and basically mixed like 10 songs in the bar, and they actually made like perfect replica of the bar from the movie. And there's like a bunch of speakers around the club or the bar, whatever you want to call it. And I basically mixed it. I said, oh, the kick should be there, and the snare should be here, and the piano should be there, and like we need to spread I don't know, the strings over here. That was like super. That was different for me because I never done it. I don't think I think it's like very rare for people to actually do it because there's not a lot of places where you can do it. Like you have either mixing music, which is in stereo, left and right, or you have
Mhm.
like film, which is 5:1 surround. But this was very random. So for me, I even like there were a lot of there was a big learning curve for me to actually know how to do it. So I kind of like learned it and did it on the go. Uh,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
Absolutely.
that was an amazing experience to do it. Yes.
I think that's really amazing. I actually really do appreciate you also mentioning the actual background of it. A lot of people see like the finished product and it's really nice and sounds
Yeah.
great, but like all the work that goes into it with the production, the people
True.
behind the scenes, hundreds of people actually doing all one job. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
that for sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I always, sometimes there's a now with the COVID, it's a little bit different. But before COVID, there was a lot of like events and panels that I was sometimes participated in. Like people from the audience ask about the work and how you get the job, and like basically like industry stuff. And I always like when I talk to audience, I always like to tell them the practical thing, like because when you go to like a lecture or when you hear somebody is talking about his work and what he's done and how great he is and blah blah blah, like you don't really get an answer like, okay, but how you did it, like how you
Hmm.
actually done it, like what you woke up in the morning and what you did, who you called, who you emailed, like so this is stuff that I like to actually say, like I can talk how day and night about how amazing it was and how great it was, but not a lot of people really get the information of how to do it, how to get there. So for me,
Absolutely.
that's something that I really like to emphasize.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, you've also done other kind of projects where you work with one of the biggest gaming companies, Tencent, which is really
Tencent,
awesome. Really awesome. Can you kind of
yes,
tell me
yes,
how did that come about and how did you feel when you were actually being invited to come into their world and be able to work with them as well? Like you say, you've done music, filming, and everything. So now it's gaming. So how did that go?
right, yes. Well, that was very recent. That was super straightforward. They just the composer who writes music for them just approached on Facebook. He apparently heard about me and heard about my work, and they were looking for an engineer who has a very big background in film scoring. And they basically we talked in Facebook, and then we had like a video call and everything, and we talked about what the project is and how it's going to be, and that's it. I did it, and for me that was working with the Chinese market is very different, it's very strict. Deadline was very strict. I knew that I can't be late, and I knew that they were very clear about what they want. So there
Mhm.
was no like, yeah, do your thing, like we trust you, blah blah. They knew exactly how they wanted, and they told me, yes, we needed to sound like this and this and that. And I knew, okay, like there's no room for me to, I mean, this is the first project, so like there's no room to actually bring your own voice into it. Like you basically a technical engineer. Okay, I need to mix it, I need to make it sound good, and that's it. So yeah,
Yes.
it was a very fast relationship and very good, and I believe it will happen in the future as well because we had like a great experience.
Absolutely. And I'm actually really glad that you're able to get these different kind of experiences. Like you said, you're Israeli, so you also come to America, and again, you work with the Chinese market as well. So actually having these different kinds of experiences in different industries is really cool and actually amazing for you to be able to travel and to be able to work with different kinds of people.
Yes, 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 yes. It's very different. Even for me, imagine like I came from Israel and then I moved to US and then I was like learn how to talk with Americans and like business wise. I'm saying like what they mean when they say this and what they mean when they say this, and then I work with Chinese people and it's like and it's way different. Like okay, so there's a lot of when in this industry when you work internationally with different people around the world, like each one of them is different. Like I had the experience to work with an Indian company, and their approach was very different as well. At the end of the day, like of course it's all about the music, and you just need to make it sound good. But
Yeah.
when you are actually a freelancer in this entertainment world, like to be honest, a lot of it is just know how to communicate with people. That's much more important. Like I can be not that good in my job, but I can communicate perfect, and like I'm very responsive, and I know how to compliment them and like what to say, when to say it, and stuff like this. And people like to have somebody that they feel comfortable with. So for me, that's something that I think I try to learn every day how to be the best tube, you can call it like a tube for the people to receive their product in the best way,
Mhm.
in the shortest way, with least amount of problem. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very important, especially in this industry. It's pretty, almost cutthroat. It's like, yeah, you're not here. We can't count on you. It is what it is.
Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. No, it's
And
crazy. It's
also,
crazy.
referring to you being involved with Netflix, which I've actually seen your post on Instagram. You were thanking them, like, thanks you guys, for letting us be a part of this and everything. So you kind of tell us or give us a sneak peek of what you're going to be working on coming up, or is that all secret right now?
Yes, to be honest, it's like I'm on an NDA right now, so I can't really say the titles and stuff. But it's basically, you can imagine, it's like basically, as I said, I did a lot of trailers for Universal. I started to do it a lot, and then I worked with like different music libraries that make a lot of placement for trailers and stuff like this.
Mhm.
So basically, it was a bunch of music that will be played on their upcoming trailers for their new shows. So
Wow.
basically, that's the work. Like for me today, when I do trailers, again, like you, sometimes I work on a song or I work on a track that's gonna be on a trailer. Sometimes I don't even know where it's gonna end up, and
Mhm.
only after I release it and I send it to them, like I hear from them like 4 months later, like, hey, the track you worked on is on this film and on this trailer show
Wow.
and blah blah blah, and then I receive it, and so I never really know. Sometimes I guess, I know, oh, it's probably for like an action movie or like a horror movie and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just know that working with these companies, for me, it's something that I always try to reach because the main reason why is because when you work on such big streamers companies, even today, what they tend to do is to actually bring a lot of freelancers. Like they don't have an in-house mixing engineer and in-house composers or whatever. They bring people from outside, and I think that's very, very, very rare compared to what it was before.
Yeah.
A lot of the big studios, they had their own people inside, and if you wanted to work with them, you had to work your way from like really, really low, and it can take years and stuff like this. But today, if they can see and if they hear that you can do the work, if they hear about you, or they receive a recommendation about you, they they try you. They try to work with you. So there's like an open opportunity for almost anyone who can get the connection, which is
Yeah.
great, which is amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And also, Shilo, can you actually tell before we close, can you tell us a little bit more about where can we stay connected with you, where people can find out more about you?
Yes. So the main thing is my Instagram account. You can watch and everything I do. I try to be, I know like this is part of the world today to be active on social media so everybody will know that you're actually working. Uh, I'm not really good at it, but I try to post once a week, something like this about what I do and what I can talk about. So Instagram, Shalev Alon Mixing, and my YouTube account also, Shalev Alon Mixing. Like there's a bunch of work that I did there for all the projects I mentioned. Also my IMDb page. Like if you just, people want to see all the work that I did and who I worked with, definitely those are the best place to look for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate having you on the show. You guys, you
Yes,
can
thank you
just
so much,
in.
Vanessa. That was amazing. I really appreciate it. Really.